So one day I was doing a stop smoking clinic, and I'd always invited people who had graduated the clinic to come in for reinforcement to just sit through one or two sessions, or if they wanted to, they were able to sit through the whole clinic again. And I had one, and I always encourage people, specifically if they really wanted to come in to reinforce their own quit, to come on the second or third day of the clinic. See, if they came the first day of the clinic, they'd see a group of people who were really nervous about quitting smoking, but they wouldn't really be in the middle of quitting smoking. If they came the second or third day, well, they'd see people really in withdrawal, and they'll realize just how far they've came in that, since they were in that state. Sometimes people would come. I would have a panel session on the fourth night, and the panelists were coming to help the people in the group. Also, they were coming to help themselves, but sometimes, in the sense, coming to help themselves, it was by watching people in the middle of a quit. But there were times where the whole group was kind of eased up by that point in time, and they didn't get as much out of it themselves as the group got out of them. But that's not what this video is about. I think there is another video talking about that. I had one time though where I had a person who had been a regular panelist for me and came by, to numerous programs to help, who all of a sudden showed up on the second day. I was thinking it might have been the first, but I do believe it was the second day of the clinic. Or I think he may have. No, it was the second day. That's right. Okay, because when we were going around introducing, which happens, and we often didn't get through to everybody, but we would try to get to as many people as they could on that second day program. I knew he was there, and I just suspected he was there for reinforcement. Maybe he knew someone in the clinic; he was helping them. I didn't really know the story. And when I asked him, his name was Paul. When I asked him, why he came, he says, "Well, he really had a bad day that day. Urge-wise, nothing else. He just really wanted a cigarette really bad, and this was months and months after he'd quit smoking." And I said, "What happened? What do you feel triggered it?" He said, "Well, he knew what it was. He had walked into the men's room where he worked, and there was a cigarette, and it was his brand with a lighter sitting on top of the urinal. And he looked at this, and he said he got really excited. It was his brand. It was right there. Nobody would know he did it, and he could just have this cigarette now." And he said it just caught him totally off guard. He hadn't had a thought like this in a long time, and all of a sudden, he's excited by this presentation of the cigarette, on top of this urinal, that he could have it now. And I looked at him, and again, this is with a whole group there. I looked at him, I said, "Paul, when's the last time you saw anything sitting on top of a urinal and then got excited thinking, oh man, I can put this in my mouth now?" And he said, "Yeah, point well taken." And that was kind of it. And then when I called him the next day, he was fine. And then I've seen him numerous times over the years after that. And I don't think he ever had another incident even close to that. He never reflected one to me, when he came into programs to do panels, or when I just would see him at times. I'd run into him at a place where he worked. So it was just a funny story. Although it does illustrate the type of memory that people have, like all of a sudden there's something exciting here, something really good that they're finding, but if they really analyze what it was. And again, this was an extreme situation. It was on top of a urinal in a men's room and had that appeal. So you can imagine what it's like when it's in a little bit more sanitized environment. But again, it's still remembering them for what they were, remembering that they had a grip on you, powerful enough to make something like that look exciting. And again, it's remembering that you're free from that now. The more you remember them for how they were, the more you realize how far you've come, the more dedicated you will stay to your commitment to never take another puff.